So let's go.
Want to start with chet chet? Is that good? Or
That's good.
good?
Let me just make sure that that's right. Yeah, chet chet.
All the seas are like a mikveh, as it is said. All the gathering mikveh of waters he would call it seas. These are the words of Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says only the great sea is like a mikveh. It says seas only because it contains many kinds of seas. Rabbi Yossi says all the seas can plurify when flowing, but they are unfit for zavim and metzorim and for consecrating their firm purification waters. Smitten waters are invalid, and they are considered to be smitten waters and waters that are salty or lukewarm. Waters that cease to flow are invalid, and these are the waters that cease. If they cease once in 7 years, waters that cease during military campaigns and in years of drought are valid, and Rabbi disqualifies. The waters of the Carmenian River and the waters of the Pugat River are disqualified because they are marsh waters. The waters of the Jordan River and the waters of the Yarmuk River are invalid because they are mingled waters. And these are mingled waters these are mingled waters, one valid water source and one invalid water source that became intermixed. However, two valid water sources that became mixed are valid. Reb Yehuda disqualifies. Okay.
Okay. Be'er Achav. So Be'er Achav is the name of a well, which Kahati points out where they don't know where it is. Omaras Pamias, and the spring of the cave of Pamias, which is basically Banyas. Okay, kshera. These are kosher because for mechatas. Why are they even mentioned? I'm not sure. Not sure why they had to be singled out. There might have been a doubt about them. Amas hamayim haba merachok. Now, what about an aqueduct that comes from a distance? You know, as long as it's flowing water from the spring, so you could have built a man-made channel, but as long as it's channeling natural spring water, that's still okay. Just got to be sure that it wasn't plugged up and then reopened by a person, okay? Because then it loses its status of Maim Chaim. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he says you don't have to do any special inspection. The chazaka is that it's naturally flowing water, and you don't need to do any further inspections. However, the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda, and it appears that you do actually have to make sure that the amma was not blocked. Okay, Rabbi be'er shenafal l'socha char siso adama. So if you have a well where some clay, some potsherds, or basically crumbs, fragments of pottery, or adama, or earth fell into it. Yamtin la ad shetetzel. You have to wait until the water clears before you can use it for Maim Chaim. Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. Thus says Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva Omer, ein lo tzarich lamtin. No need to wait. The fact that the water's been churned up a little bit and looks muddy is immaterial, and the halacha is like Rabbi Akiva. Yeah. Chapter 9. Tzlochis. So tzlochis is the term that we use. The flask is the term that we use for the container that is in which you carry the mechatas once the ashes have already been sprinkled. So tzlochis, when we use the term tzlochis, it means that this is already Maim Chaim and it's ready for sprinkling. Okay. So tzlochis shenafal l'socha mayim kol shehin. Any amount of non-sanctified water that fell into the mask, into the flask. Rabbi Eliezer Omer yazeh shtei hazayos. He says, he's of the view that the waters don't mix, and just do it twice, so that to make sure that you got some proper mechatas on there. There's a discussion as to why he thinks that twice will help, but one opinion is basically just that he says that in any case the non-sanctified water is mevutel, but he puts it as a penalty that you have to sprinkle twice, so that you don't get a benefit from having added extra water. Okay. The Chachamim poslim, according to the Chachamim, that's it. Once it's mixed in with any amount of non-sanctified water that gets into that flask, and pour it down the drain. Okay. Yorad lesocha tal. What happens if you left it outdoors overnight and dew fell on the flask? Okay, well, that was a pretty dumb thing to do. Anyway, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, leave it in the sun and let the dew evaporate. Okay, v'tal olah. And the dew will evaporate. V'chachamim poslin. Chachamim say you can't do that. It's you don't know which water is evaporating. It's all, some of it was sanctified, some of it was not, and we just can't rely on it. And any amount of foreign water that gets into there, it messes it up. Nafal mashkin. What happens if other liquids fell in? For example, oil or wine, or, okay, may peros or any other kind of fruit juice. Ya'are, he has to pour it all out. But tzarich l'nagev, and is to wipe it clean to make sure that there are no further impurities in the flask before he refills it and makes to use more mechatas in there. Okay. Dior komas v'kankantim v'chol davar shehu rashem. But what happens if it's ink or what's it? Ferrous salt. What is the
like gum, Arabic ferrous sulfate, or anything else that leaves a stain.
Okay, great. So I was right about ferrous sulfate. Okay, or anything else that leaves a mark. Yare just has to pour it out. There's no need for him to wipe it out, because if there's any ink left behind, you'd see it. No. So if you don't see a mark behind, then there's nothing there. Okay. What happens if any kind of creepy crawly creatures fell into your water and they split open while they were inside the water? Or even if they didn't split open, but the appearance changed, so that you can see that like a bit of color has come into the water. So then that's the end of your mechatas. What happens if a beetle fell in? Even if it didn't split open and the water didn't change, because according to the Mishna, the beetle is kind of tubular or whatever. It's like it lets water in and out of its body very easily, and you can't tell. So it's bechezka that some water has gone in and gone out from this beetle, even if it didn't split open. Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Amrim Hadira v'Akina shebatua. It says these two types of insects, Adira and Akina, that typically infest produce. Sherim, they don't harm the mechatas if they fell in, because they're completely dry and they don't have any liquids of their own inside them. I'm not sure that this would stand up to a biologist looking at this and saying, not so sure about this. But nonetheless, this is the best scientific knowledge that they had at the time, and therefore that's what they paskin. And this is not the halacha, by the way. That these beetles also can. The halacha follows the Tana Kama in this case. Okay.
All right.
Back to Vav Daled.
Okay. If one positions his hands or his foot or vegetable leaves so that the water should pass over the barrel, the water is invalid. If he positioned reed leaves or walnut leaves, the water is valid. This is a general rule. If it is something that is susceptible to tumah, it is invalid. If it's something that is not susceptible to tumah, it's valid. If one diverts a spring into the vat of a wine press or into water holes, the water is valid for zavam, if for mitzorim, and for consecrating it is mekatas, because that was not filled in a vessel. Okay, and now we're back to Parah Aleph, correct?
What? Yeah, to Zion Aleph, yeah.
Aleph, right. If 5 people filled the 5 barrels in order to perform 5 sanctifications and then decided to perform a single sanctification, or if they filled the barrels in order to perform a single sanctification and then decided to perform 5 sanctifications, they are all valid. If a single person filled 5 barrels in order to perform 5 sanctifications and then decided to perform a single sanctification, only the last one's valid. If he filled them in order to perform a single sanctification and then decided to perform 5 sanctifications, only the first one that he sanctified is valid. If he said to someone, sanctifies these for yourself, only the first one is valid, and sanctifies these for me, they are all valid. Okay. And Nagayim. Okay. Yud Aleph. The succum can become confined tummy for 2 weeks and are confirmed tummy with 2 symptoms that with deficient blonde hair or with expansion. Deficient blonde hair means damage by being short. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says even long. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says, what do people mean when they say this stick is dark or this reed is dark? They don't mean it is very thin regarding whether it's short or long. Rabbi Akiva said to him, before we learn from a reed, we should learn from hair. When people say so-and-so's hair is dark, they use dark to mean very short, not long, and very thin. Deficient blood renders the nesek tummy, whether together or scattered. surrounded or not surrounded, I'm sorry, surrounded or not surrounded, changed by the nega or not changed. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Reb Shimon says it only renders tummy if changed by the nega. Said Reb Shimon, it is logical argument. If white hair whose tumah is not curtailed by other hair renders a nega of tummy only if it was changed by the persisting nega, should not deficient blonde hair, which is curtailed by other hair, render tummy only when changed. Reb Yehuda says whenever the Torah needs to say change, it means change. However, a nesek, about which it says it had no blonde hair within it, renders the nesek tummy whether changed or not changed. New growth saves from blonde hair and from expansion, whether together or scattered. The surrounded or not surrounded remaining hair saves from blonde hair and from expansion, whether together or scattered, but only surrounded when it is on the side. It does not save unless it has two hair spaces distant from where the hair grows normally. One blonde hair and one black hair, or one blonde hair and one white hair do not save.
Okay.
Caleb.
Yeah.
Okay, Yud. A previous tool can become tummy with both midras tumah and corpse tumah. If it's separated, the leather can become tummy with midras tumah, and the iron can become tummy with corpse tumah. A trascal whose cover is of leather can become tummy with both midras tumah and corpse tumah. If it's separated, the leather can become tummy with midras tumah, and the trascal is completely tahor. Benches of a bathhouse whose two legs are of wood of tummy. With one leg is wood and one of stone, it's tahor. Regarding the boards of a bathhouse that once smooth, Rabbi Akiva rules them tummy, but the sages say they are tahor since they are only made for the water to run underneath them. A fumigator that is acceptable for garment is tummy, but a fumigator made like a beehive is tahor. Regarding a ball, a shoe form, an amulet, or tefillin that are torn, one touches them is tummy. But one who touches their contents is tahor. Regarding a saddle that tore, one who touches its contents is tummy, and for the stitching connects it. Okay. And the following, that's it, right?
Base also.
That's right. The following utensils of tummy is merkab, an ascalon strap, a mating mortar, a pack saddle of a camel, and a saddle of a horse. Rabbi Yossi says even a saddle of a horse is tummy as a moshab because they stand on it in the sporting ground, but a saddle of a dromedary is tummy. Okay. And we are in Zvacham. Okay, Tasheh. The following mustn't be taken down from the altar, even if they were brought up in the meat of the most holy offering. The meat of the offering of less holiness, the remainder of the Omer offering, the 2 loaves offering, the panim breads, the remainder of the milch offerings, and the incense. The wool on the heads of lambs and the head on the hair in their beards of he goats, and the bones, gidden, horns, and hooves, as long as they are attached, they are brought up as said. And the Kohen shall burn everything upon the altar. If they separated from the offering, they should not be brought up as it is said, and you shall make your olah offerings the meat and the blood. If any of these were ejected from atop the altar, they need not be returned. Similarly, an ember which was ejected from the altar, limbs of offerings which were ejected from the altar before midnight, they should be returned to the altar, and one is liable for milah on their account. After midnight, they should not be returned to the altar, as one is not liable to milah on their account. Just as the altar sanctifies that which is fit for the ramp, for it, so the ramp to the altar sanctifies. Just as the altar and the ramp sanctify that which is fit for them, so sacred vessels sanctify. Vessels designated for fluids sanctify fluids, and the measures designated for solids sanctify solids. Vessels designated for fluids are not sanctified solids, and nor do measures designated for solids sanctify fluids. Sacred vessels, which were punctured if they can still be used for purpose similar to that which they have been used when whole, they sanctify, and if not, they do not sanctify. All of them sanctify only in the holy.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have Subas. Okay. Yud Ben Gimel. If a widow says, who did not wish to borrow more from my husband's house, the heirs cannot say to her, go to your father's house and we will support you. Rather, they must support her in her husband's house, and they give her a residence according to her honor. If she says, I do not wish to move from my father's house, the heirs may say to her, if you are with us, you will have sustenance. But if you are not with us, you will have no sustenance. If she claims that it is because she is young and they are young, they must support her while she is in her father's house. As long as she is in her father's house, she can collect a ketubah forever. As long as she is in her husband's house, she can collect a ketubah until the end of 25 years. For in 25 years, she has the opportunity to do favors according to the amount of ketubah. These are the words of Reb Meir, which he stated in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The sages, however, say as long as she is in her husband's house, she may collect her ketubah forever. As long as she is in her father's house, she may collect the ketubah until the end of 25 years. If she dies, the heirs may claim a ketubah until the end of 25 years. Two judges of decrees were in Yerushalayim, Admin and Canaan. In Yerushalayim, Admin and Canaan ben Asalom, Avishalom. Canaan said two things. Admin said seven. If one went overseas and his wife demands sustenance, Canaan said she must swear at the end, but she may not swear at the beginning. The sons of the Kohanim Gedolim differed with him, and said she must swear both at the beginning and the end. Redosa ben Harkin is concurred with the view. Rabbi ben Yochanan ben Zakkai Canaan said, well, she need not swear except at the end. If someone went overseas and so on,
that's it.
I'm so fast. Okay.
That's three, yeah.
Okay, and vice roofs are exempt even when they belong to a courtyard, which is liable. A doorway, portico, or balcony counts as a courtyard, and if liable, they are liable, and exempt, they are exempt. If cone-shaped huts, watch hunts, and summer hunts are exempt. Sarat hut, even if there are a hand mill, poultry in it, it's exempt. A potter's hut, the inner hut is liable, but the outer one's exempt. Rabbi Yossi says whatever does not serve as a summer dwelling and as a winter dwelling is exempt. A festival tabernacle on a festival, Rabbi Yehuda declares it liable, with a common there is exempt. From a fig tree which stands in the courtyard, in the yard, one may eat one by one is exempt, but if together he's liable. Rabbi Shimon says one in his right hand and one in his left hand and one in his mouth. If he climb the top, he may fill his lap and eat. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the time. Okay. Have a great day. Thank you, Shaul. Thank you. Bye.